Open hands, quiet strength, Buddhist teaching on change. You've been holding life like it's fragile, as if everything depends on your grip. This is a story about trusting change and finding quiet strength in letting go. The weight of holding. You may not notice it at first because it feels like responsibility. The subtle tightening in the chest. The sense that if you loosen attention, something important might slip away. Love, safety, meaning, each feels delicate, as if it requires constant supervision, so the mind stays alert. It watches, plans, prepares. It holds. But even in moments of calm, a faint strain lingers. The body rests, yet something inside remains braced. As though peace itself must be guarded. You might call this care, or commitment, or maturity. And yet, beneath it lives a quiet exhaustion. Holding takes energy, and the effort never truly ends. The Buddha once noticed this same tension, not as a moral problem, but as a lived experience. He saw how the mind grips not because life demands it, but because fear whispers that release would mean loss. And so the holding continues, long after it stops being useful. When care becomes control. At first, control feels like love in action. You anticipate needs. You prevent mistakes. You prepare for what might go wrong. There is a sense of usefulness in this vigilance, even pride. But over time, care subtly hardens into control, and control into strain. The body mirrors this. Shoulders rise without permission. Breath shortens. Thoughts circle the same concerns, rehearsing outcomes that have not arrived. The mind is rarely here. It is always one step ahead, managing life rather than meeting it. In the Buddha's way of seeing, this is not a failure of character. It is a misunderstanding of cause and effect. The mind believes effort creates safety. Yet the more it tightens, the less safe it feels. Like gripping water, the harder you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Seeing the grip. That which is held tightly brings suffering. That which is understood can be released. Stillness reveals what motion hides. When the body pauses and the breath settles, the grip becomes visible, not as an idea, but as a sensation. A clenching in thought, a narrowing of attention, a subtle refusal to let life move freely. This is where insight begins, not through force, but through seeing. You notice how often the word mind appears silently in the mind. My time, my role, my security. And with each claim, a small tension follows, like a hand closing around something already changing. The Buddha did not ask the mind to stop caring. He invited it to look closely at what caring had become. When care is rooted in fear, it constricts. When it is rooted in understanding, it softens. The difference is not philosophical. It is felt immediately. Impermanence at work. Nothing you are holding has ever stayed the same. Not relationships. Not health. Not even the self you believe you are protecting. Life has always been moving, quietly rearranging itself, whether you tighten your grip or not. You can see this in small things. A conversation shifts tone without warning. A mood dissolves on its own. A problem that once felt urgent fades with time. The world does not pause for supervision. It unfolds according to conditions far wider than personal effort. The Buddha noticed that suffering arises not from change itself, but from arguing with it. The mind wants permanence where none exists. It tightens in protest. But impermanence does not respond to resistance. It simply continues. The cost of ownership. Ownership feels stabilizing. To name something as mine gives the illusion of ground. But almost immediately, a burden appears. What is owned must be protected. What is claimed must be defended. People become expectations. Achievements become identity. Even peace becomes something to maintain. And with each layer of ownership, anxiety quietly multiplies. Loss is no longer a natural movement. It feels like erasure. The Buddha saw that this sense of ownership is not required for care. You can water a plant without believing it belongs to you. You can love someone without imprisoning them in expectation. When ownership loosens, care becomes lighter, more responsive, less afraid. Trusting the unheld. The world continues without permission. Understanding learns to rest within this truth. At some point, perhaps in exhaustion, the grip softens, not dramatically. Just enough to notice something unexpected. Nothing collapses. The breath continues. The room remains. Life moves forward without instruction. The sun rises without consulting effort. The heart beats without supervision. People change, arrive, and leave according to currents larger than intention. This realization does not bring despair. It brings relief. The Buddha's insight was never about withdrawing from life. It was about trusting its intelligence. When effort aligns with reality rather than resisting it, action becomes clean. There is doing, but no desperation. Care without fear. Fear wearing desire. As attention turns inward, another pattern becomes visible. Much of what once looked like desire was fear in disguise. The drive to secure, to achieve, to accumulate, less about reaching forward, more about bracing against loss. This fear is subtle. It speaks in reasonable language. Just in case, to be safe, to make sure, but the body knows the difference. Fear tightens. It narrows the field of experience. It turns life into a series of defenses. The Buddha observed this directly in the movements of his own mind. He saw how craving often wears the mask of purpose, and how ambition can quietly be fueled by fear of impermanence rather than love of life. Seeing this clearly, he did not condemn desire. He simply understood its root. Seeing this is not a judgment. It is a release. When fear is recognized, it loses its authority. Effort no longer needs to prove worth. Action can arise from clarity instead of urgency. The middle way of effort. The Buddha did not teach passivity. He taught alignment. Effort that strains is not wisdom. Effort that flows with conditions is strength. You feel this difference immediately. Strained effort leaves residue, fatigue, irritation, self-criticism. Aligned effort leaves space. Even when tasks are difficult, there is an underlying ease, a sense of right placement. Like rowing with the current rather than against it, life begins to support movement instead of resisting it. This is not because circumstances improve, but because the relationship to them has changed. The struggle was never required. Identity softens. What you call yourself is also changing. Seeing this, the heart loosens its armor. Much of the grip is not on things, but on identity, who you believe you must be. What you believe you must maintain. Success, failure, strength, weakness, all carefully guarded. But when watched closely, identity behaves like weather. It shifts with conditions. Confident one moment, uncertain the next. Solid, then transparent. The Buddha saw that clinging to identity creates unnecessary defense. The self becomes fragile because it is treated as fixed. When identity is allowed to move, flexibility returns. You can respond rather than protect, learn rather than defend. The self becomes an instrument, not a fortress. Love without guarding. Love often carries a hidden contract. Stay the same. When this contract is threatened, fear appears. Control follows. Guarding feels like devotion. But love does not require possession. In fact, possession dulls it. When fear loosens, love becomes vivid again, unburdened by vigilance. Presence replaces monitoring. Listening replaces anticipating. The Buddha's understanding allowed love to breathe. Care remained, even deepened, but without anxiety. When nothing is owned, nothing needs to be defended. Loss may still hurt, but it no longer destroys. Standing inside change. With open hands, change feels different. Instead of being something to resist, it becomes something to stand within. Like weather passing through an open field, experiences move without obstruction. This does not mean indifference. It means participation without clinging. Joy is felt fully, without fear of its ending. Sadness is allowed, without identity forming around it. The Buddha's freedom was not found outside change, but inside it. When resistance ends, movement itself becomes workable. Life no longer needs guarantees to be lived honestly. Quiet strength appears. That which does not cling cannot be shaken. A different kind of strength emerges here. Not loud, not controlling, but resilient. Whatever arrives can be met. Whatever leaves can be survived. This strength does not come from preparation, but from trust. Trust in awareness. Trust in the capacity to respond. Trust that life, when met clearly, does not require constant defense. The Buddha recognized this strength as natural. It appears when effort aligns with reality. When the mind stops arguing with impermanence, energy is freed for presence. Peace without conditions. Peace no longer depends on things staying the same. It rests in the ability to see clearly, to respond appropriately, to let go when holding no longer serves. This peace is not dramatic. It is quiet, almost ordinary, a steadiness beneath movement. A sense that life can be met as it is, not as it should be. The Buddha recognized this peace as the natural result of understanding, not something to be manufactured or protected. When grasping ends, peace does not need to be summoned. It is simply revealed, like calm water when the stirring stops. The mind relaxes its constant checking. The body follows. Breath deepens. Attention widens. Nothing special is required. Nothing needs to be secured. Living with open hands. Daily life continues. Work, relationships, decisions. But something fundamental has shifted. You participate fully, yet hold lightly. You care deeply, yet without fear. When tension appears, it is seen quickly. When grasping returns, it is recognized without blame. The practice is not perfection, but awareness. This is the Buddha's guidance lived quietly, not as doctrine, but as recognition. The world does not need to be held together. It moves on its own rhythm. You move with it. What was never lost? Nothing essential was ever held. Nothing essential can be lost. In the end, there is no dramatic conclusion, just a gentle understanding. Life was never as fragile as it seemed. The strain came from misunderstanding, not from reality. The Buddha saw this clearly, not as a doctrine, but as a lived truth. He realized that the mind tightens because it believes safety must be manufactured, not recognized. When this misunderstanding is seen, the grip loosens on its own. With open hands, the heart rests, strength remains, peace is no longer borrowed from conditions. It arises from seeing clearly and moving in harmony with what is. And in this seeing, freedom is found, not by forcing life to change, but by understanding how it has always been. This is Buddha Reflections, where philosophy, insight, and lived experience meet to explore mind, impermanence, and release. Thanks for your time. It's been a delight. What should we explore next? Comment, share, and save your insight. Subscribe to Orbital Dharma and keep your thoughts bright.